Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. Yesterday I didn't do a video because I was a little bit busy remodeling my boy's bathroom, and then I was just too tired to record a video. But yesterday was actually a really good day in the markets. Bitcoin was up, marathon, miners were up for the most part. Cleanspark had a really good day. Surprisingly, we were trying to figure out what happened there. And it might be, we'll take a look at it, but it might be because somebody actually called into Jim Cramer for Mad Money, and they asked about Cleanspark. Maybe that kind of pushed it a little bit on Friday. Just a theory, I don't know. But then we'll also take a look at Bitfarms. Obviously, they're going to be diluting about, 44 million shares or something like that. Get proceeds of about 16 million or something like that. We'll talk about that, what my thoughts are on it, and we'll look at how the miners performed for this past week along with Bitcoin. Okay, so it's going to be a pretty quick video, and as always, you guys know the drill here. Not financial advice for entertainment only. Please do your own research, and thank you so much for coming in to watch this video. I'm investing in the following coins and companies for full disclosure, so you guys are aware of that. And hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. And let's take a look at our first stories here that we'll take a look at, and then we'll get into the other things as well. So Jim Cramer admits he was wrong about Bitcoin. I was premature. I made a lot of money, said Cramer, who cleared a profit on Bitcoin despite urging investors to sell the cryptocurrency. Right, he's been kind of on and off on crypto in the past. He's told people to sell it in the wrong times and buy in the wrong time. Sometimes he's there's even like a joke going around on X, Twitter, which is the inverse. Whatever Jim Cramer says, do the opposite of it, and you might end up doing a little bit better than what he recommends. But markets commentator Jim Cramer has tactically admitted he was wrong about Bitcoin, saying he was premature in calling for investors to sell the cryptocurrency. In a November 22 segment, which was a couple days ago, on his CNBC Mad Money show, Cramer responded to a caller who inquired about buying shares in Bitcoin miner Cleanspark, saying that anyone who likes Bitcoin should increase their exposure to it. So basically, he brushed off a little bit on Cleanspark, and he just went right into Bitcoin. But this at least leads me to know that he at least knows Cleanspark and what they do. So that was an interesting thought there. And obviously, the following day, the stock went up quite nicely. Here's a quote from him. Look, if you like Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. That has always been my view. And for a while, I liked it. And I decided that money had been made, but I was premature. Right? So he's basically saying that he was wrong on his trade there on it. But I wonder if he's ever looked into the performance of how the miners perform in a bull run against Bitcoin and what the actual leverage play is on the Bitcoin miners compared to Bitcoin, right? I love both, actually, Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. I hold Bitcoin. I've been holding it for, now going on almost 6 years, since 2017. I continue to hodl that one. That one I'm not going to be selling until it gets to 1 million. But with the miners, I started getting into them. Also in 2017, got into Hive a little bit there. Didn't sell it in the last bull run. That was my mistake. I've said that before. I thought things were going to go up more in Bitcoin. They didn't. I learned my lesson there. So this time around, I started also investing in Cleanspark, Bitfarms. I recently just got into Iris Energy. And right, the goal is here to have the miners do better than Bitcoin as far as percentage gains going into the, well, not into the halving event, but after the halving event next year, we might see a good 5, 10, 15x, if not more, on some of these miners here going with the bull run that we're possibly going to get next year. So I'm investing in both. Like I said, I'm just hodling Bitcoin. I'm investing in miners. We'll see where they end up at in the bull run. And then we'll possibly start dollar cost averaging out of them. Because unless things change and Bitcoin stays at above 100,000, 150,000, whatever it might be, for an extended period of time, the cyclical cycle that we've seen in Bitcoin has always been up and then down and then up and down, right? So right now we're going off of that basis, what we've seen historically. That might change. If it changes, we'll obviously keep you guys posted and see what's going on there. All right, but I thought that was kind of cool that not only somebody called in about Cleanspark into Mad Money, but also that the stock pumped the following day. All right, so we'll take a look at that, obviously, how it performed in the weekly performance against Bitcoin here. All right, but this is obviously good that he is once again getting a little bit bullish. And then if you go into this article here from Cointelegraph and you watch the video, it starts, the caller calls in at minute 50 at that point. Okay, now Bitfarms. So I was a little bit surprised about Bitfarms. So Bitfarms announces 60 million private placement with U.S. institutional investors. This was in Canadian, obviously. And I was a little bit surprised by this because they were actually doing really well up to this point, paying off their debt, growing their balance sheet, things like that, and they're also growing. So I was a little surprised by this. I didn't expect this to come. They said that they were going to be continuing to pay down their debt, continuing to try and grow their hash rate, and we've seen them do that maybe a little bit slower or less than I would have liked, but they were still doing it. They were expanding into other regions as well. And the other thing was, I was going to say, with Bitcoin price going up in value, obviously the network hash rate also has been increasing, but the miners have been generating more and more revenue here each month for the most part, along with the network transaction fees have been increasing this month. So that's going to be helping them out. So I was a little bit surprised by this, okay? But here's what we got. So Bitfarms announces it has entered into a subscription agreement with certain institutional investors for gross proceeds of approximately 60 Canadian million dollars in a private placement in the United States comprised of 44,444,446 common shares at a Canadian price of $1.35 per common share, along with warrants to purchase an aggregate of up to 22,222,223 common shares. The warrants have an exercise price of Canadian dollars $1.61 or US $1.17 per common share, and exercise period of 3 years. So within those 3 years, the investor has the option to obviously buy an additional 22 million plus shares. The net proceeds of the private placement will be used by the company mainly to acquire additional miners, expand infrastructure, and improve its working capital position. All right, so this is why I was surprised on it. Their working capital position has been getting better, right? They were over $100 million in debt last year. They've paid off a lot of that. They're down to I think 13 or 17 million left on that to pay off, which is, they've done a fantastic job. Unfortunately, they have had to sell their Bitcoin hodl to get to this point. But it was, I think some of the stuff was also backed by Bitcoin, so they had to sell it nonetheless to kind of get out of the debt situation that they were in. Okay, so this was interesting, like I said. And I mean, this represents, 44 million shares? Was it 15% of the shares that they have right now? So if you look at Bitfarms, they have 277 million shares as of last reported on their quarter three report. This is the number that we got. So this is basically 15 something percent like that. Just doing the math in my head here really quick. Market cap is at 300 million. Obviously, with the shares being added into that, that's going to add us another 44. So that brings us to 320 million shares roughly or so. And then they have the 22 million shares as possible as well. So if we look at their numbers down here, we can see that their last 4 quarters revenue has been increasing for the most part. Q3 was a little bit lower than Q2, but I'm estimating here as far as the current quarter that we're in, Q4, is going to be higher than that based on Bitcoin price going up in value. Last 4 quarter operating costs have been kind of steady here around 30 million, so that's good. And then cost of minus depreciation has been increasing here a little bit, but that's given that the network hash rate has been increasing as well. So it's going to have an effect on that. Bitcoin mine quarterly has been decreasing, so that's the only kind of negative that we're seeing here. They're not growing as fast as the network hash rate is. And then when you look at debt to equity, that has been coming down here, right? So I saw no need to dilute shares to get cash. I thought going into the halving event, Bitcoin going up in value and everything else, that would help them out and into the after the halving event as well. You can see also their current ratio here has been increasing quite nicely here. So total current assets as of Q3 was 83 million. Total current liabilities was only 29 million. So that is a big improvement that we've seen here recently from them. And that's why, like I said, I was surprised by this. But nonetheless, they do have some older miners here that obviously they want to probably improve on efficiency on some of these. They do have some 80 miners, and I think those are going to be getting out. I think we're going to remove those, the 90 terahash miners, and the 91 terahash miners. And then they got some 100 terahash miners as well, and 103. So those are okay. The only thing is on those might be a little bit on the power hungry side of things, being that they're micro BTs. They're maybe not as efficient as some of the AMP miners or other ones that we've seen. Those are at 3,400 watts. As you can see here, they started still buying some micro BTs. So they're primarily here, for the most part, micro BT house that we can see here. Okay. And they have been adding or buying miners as well. So I can see why they're doing this. They're going to pay down the debt. They want to build out infrastructure and grow hash rate before the halving event. So the question is, how much are they going to grow beyond what they already have reported as being purchased? And I'm expecting to probably see some announcements here in the coming days or weeks from them to see where they will actually get to come halving event in April of next year. But nonetheless, I was shocked by this. Like I said, a little bit surprised. But we'll see. I think this is actually might be a good thing for them to get their hash rate up, improve their efficiencies as well, continue to grow out, right? We've seen obviously other miners like Marathon, Riot, Cleanspark, all going gangbusters as far as growth, growing to 20 exahash plus. before the halving event, or at least sometime close to the halving event on it, and they're still stuck at 6.3 exahash, right? So they're definitely looking to grow. They want to be probably within the top 5 miners, I'm guessing, as far as hash rate is concerned, which would be great. Maybe within the top 5 or 7 or something like that, miners for that. And we'll just have to see how they continue going forward. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this one in the comments down below. And we'll get into the next story. So the next one is just going to be on the Bitcoin miners, see how they did this past week. And it'll be pretty easy here. Where is it at? Weekly. There it is. Okay. So on this chart here, we always look at the miners, how they performed over the last 52 weeks. So how high are they from their 52-week lows, and how far away they are from their 52-week highs. So Core is still up there. Core had gotten beaten down a little bit here this past week because they announced they're going to be doing a 1-for-25 stock reverse split on that. And they're also issuing more shares at, I don't know if it's going to be at the same time or afterwards or before that, but nonetheless, they're issuing more shares. So the stock took a little bit of a dive here. They're still in Chapter 11 bankruptcy at the moment, so they're supposed to be getting out of that by the end of the year. They originally thought they were going to get out of that by the end of October, but that didn't happen. Things got pushed back a little bit. Now they're thinking maybe by the end of November or by the end of the year, possibly. Okay, so Core is still up the most. It obviously bottomed out the lowest here out of the miners after going into bankruptcy, where they ended up around 4 cents or something like that. So they're up the most. Cypher also is one that's been up quite nicely here this year, up 604%. DigiHost 341%. BitDigital up 339%. Riot up 269. Marathon up 266. Iris up 247. Argo is up 227. And then Cleanspark jumped way up here in this past week to 227% up for the year so far, 52 weeks. And then you got DMG at 195, Bitfarms at 184, Hut 8 at 147, TerraWolf at 133. Bitcoin is up for the year 128%, and this is from Friday to Friday numbers, right? I know normally Bitcoin on the weekly is Sunday to Sunday. And then we got Hive 160%, BitDeer is only 56%, Moss and 27%, Sphere is at 6.5%. So those guys are lagging behind Bitcoin here as it is. And then you can see how far away they are from the 52-week highs. Bitcoin's pretty close, only about 4.7% away from their 52-week highs here, so it's pretty close. And then Cleanspark also jumped up here quite nicely in this past week to being only down 26.6% from its 52-week high. So that's actually pretty good news there for them. And then looking as far as the performance here in this past week, now we're looking at the miners here. Bitcoin is up actually, well, based on Friday numbers, it's down 1.92% from what I track it. And obviously, Cleanspark had a huge week this week. It's up 41% this past week, which is kind of surprising. Is there some manipulation going on there? Could be. Obviously, the stock went way down to $3 and something in change. And then it's obviously been battling back up quite nicely here. So there might be some manipulation here with the large money happening, possibly. Also, possibly. I'm not saying it's the cause, but possibly the mention of Cleanspark on Mad Money had maybe a little bit of a positive impact as well on trading yesterday on Friday. Iris Energy is up 25% this past week as well, so that was good. TerraWolf is up 18, Riot up 14, Marathon up 14. So those guys are doing about the same. Cypher is up only 8, BitDeer up 8, BitDigital up 7.8, Mawson up 5.7, DigiHost 5.3, Argo 5.3 as well, DMG 3.6, and then Hut is up 1.58. The ones that have done the worst, obviously, Core here is down 22% so far this week. Sphere was down 13.9. Bitfarms was down 9.3. That was obviously on the news yesterday that came out on them doing the private placement for 44 million shares, diluting these shares. That obviously took a hit on the stock price this past week. Then if we look at the 4-week numbers here really quick as well, let's do that. We'll take a look at that. We can see Cleanspark here is leading the pack with 25% in the last 4 weeks. Bitcoin is actually up 7.92% in the last 4 weeks. You got Marathon up 21% as well. They've been doing pretty well. The ones that have done worse than Bitcoin are Riot, DMG, Iris, DigiHost, BitDigital, Argo, Bitfarms, Hive, Hut 8, Moss, and Sphere 3D, Cypher, and Core. Core being down 36% as well. So not performing well there. Look at the 8 weeks here. You can see 8 weeks. Should have sorted that descending. There we go. Cleanspark up 48% from 8 weeks ago. So that one's leading the pack right now. Marathon, second place here. DMG with 39. Bitcoin's up 35, almost 36% from 8 weeks ago that you bought back then. So all of those have done better than Bitcoin. The ones that have done worse than Bitcoin in the last 8 weeks are DigiHost, Riot, Argo, TerraWolf, BitDigital, Iris, Cypher, Bitfarms, Hot 8, Hive, Mawson, Core, Sphere 3D, and Bitdeer. Bitdeer being down the most with 44%, followed by Sphere 3D down 36% and Core down 34%. And then finally, when we look at the 12 weeks here, we can see that, let's see here. Go to the chart. Okay. Bitcoin is up 41% here. Pretty much everybody from 12 weeks ago has done worse than Bitcoin. So DigiHost is only up 37%, DMG up 20, almost 30%, the Cleanspark up 26, almost 27. You got Riot about 9, almost 10, BitDigital up almost 9.3. Argo, excuse me, only 7.27%, Marathon 4.58. And then these next group here has basically is lost value. Cypher, Hive, Bitfarms, Mawson, Hot 8, Iris, TerraWolf, Core, Sphere 3D, and Bitdeer. Bitdeer being down 62%. So that's kind of interesting. And then looking at the weekly charts here that we see, or the graphs, whatever, heat map. Let's talk about that. So we had, last week was actually a pretty good week for the miners. Prior week was pretty bad. The prior week to that as well was pretty bad, excuse me. And then we had 3 weeks of good weeks for the miners as well. And then we were kind of mixed here after that. So it's kind of fun to take a look at that. Last time we were in pretty good green territory was right around the middle of July, right? You can see it here, and then down below that we had basically 6 months, 7 months of just great gains on the miners, right? From where they bottomed out in December of last year and also early January. And then they continued a nice rally into the summer. But since the summer ended, since the middle of July, the miners have come back down in price and value. They're still down probably around 50% from last time we checked, from that high point that they reached in July. Okay, so that is it. Let me know what you guys think of all this stuff and see how things are going to go forward. Tomorrow, Sunday, may not do a video since we already did a video on this one with the weekly performance on the miners and Bitcoin. So we'll see if anything else happens. I'll maybe do some other metrics, come up with some things that might be interesting to take a look at. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to all the Patreon members. The spreadsheets are going to be available to them later on tonight. I'll get those updated for them as we have numbers to go with. And yeah, we'll see what next week is like. We got one more week in November, and then we're going to start getting, obviously, the production updates for November from the miners. And we're still waiting on, I think, 2 miners to provide us with the quarterly results for Q3, Cleanspark, and somebody else. So we're waiting on those. Those might come out early in December. All right, and that's it. Thank you so much. Like I said, I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.